When I was 16, my parents told their friends I was the family's mistake. My mom laughed, pointed right at me, and said, "Birth control's only 99% effective. He's the 1%. That same night, I walked out with just $40 and a backpack. 6 years later, they found me. Today, they showed up crying at my doorstep, begging me to talk. I threw them out for obvious reasons. Yeah, this got long. 6 years of holding it in tends to do that. I always knew I wasn't the favorite. My brother Morris? He was the golden child. Planned, smart, varsity athlete, the whole picture. Me? According to my mom's favorite dinner party joke, I was the result of cheap drugstore condoms. Hilarious, right? She'd been telling that joke since I was 8. I thought it was normal to be your mom's punchline. You adapt. I learned how to smile through it, like developing emotional armor. When adults asked me what I wanted to be, I'd say, a tax write-off, since that's how my dad described me after a few beers. People thought I was witty. Nah, I was just repeating the household script. The night everything changed was my mom's birthday, not the family dinner at some chain restaurant where Dad groaned about prices while sipping his 4th scotch. The real event was 2 days later, when she hosted her coworkers. These weren't just coworkers. They were the country club types she desperately wanted to impress. Our house wasn't much, but she went full Pinterest with the decorations, new placemats, candles, dusted off fancy plates. Dad was told to wear his one nice shirt and keep it under 5 drinks. Morris got the be impressive talk. I got nothing, not even a don't embarrass me. That should have tipped me off. The night started with me playing butler. Michael, be useful. So I served appetizers while my mom bragged about Morris's baseball scholarship. Dad kept it together, slowly sipping his drinks and nodding when required. I was invisible, which was ideal. But then someone brought up kids and how expensive they are. One lady with a Karen haircut mentioned the costs, and my mom, 4 glasses of wine in, got that look. The "I've got a great punchline" look. She pointed right at me as I collected glasses and said, "Birth control's only 99% effective. He's the 1%. Everyone burst out laughing. Even my dad chuckled like it was peak comedy. I stood there with a stack of glasses while they laughed at my existence. Morris wasn't laughing. He was staring at his plate like he wanted to disappear. At least someone felt the weight of it. But Mom wasn't done. "We already had our perfect kid," she said, nodding at Morris. "Michael here. He's what we call the family mistake." More laughter. Someone, I think it was Dad's boss, said, "Ouch, that's gonna leave a mark." Like we were in some bad sitcom. I didn't throw the glasses, didn't yell. I calmly set them down and went upstairs. No one noticed. They'd already moved on to Cancun vacation stories. I sat on my bed and something just shut off. Like when a computer crashes from too many tabs. Emotionally, I went dark. I knew I was leaving. I dumped my textbooks from my school bag, because who needs trig when you're about to be homeless? I packed a few shirts, jeans, underwear, a toothbrush, my charger, and $40 birthday money from Grandma I'd been saving for a game. Oh, and the emergency Cliff Bars I kept for when Dad forgot to buy groceries. Morris came in while I was packing. We didn't say much. He got it. He handed me $120 and his old phone, said he'd load it with prepaid minutes the next day. "They won't notice you're gone until tomorrow," he said. Not accusing, just factual, like reporting the weather. I almost stayed, almost unpacked and went back to pretending everything was okay. But then I heard more laughter downstairs and my mom talking about teenage mood swings. That sealed it. I waited till midnight. Mom and Dad were passed out, wine, and whiskey bottles empty. Morris had left his desk light on, our childhood signal for all clear. I didn't leave a note. What was I going to say? Thanks for treating me like a tumor in your perfect life. It was late October. Cold. I had nowhere to go, but even that felt better than staying. I walked to a 24-hour McDonald's and used the Wi-Fi to figure out my next move. I caught a Greyhound to the next city over, not far, but far enough. That first week? Brutal. I slept in the bus station 2 nights before finding a youth shelter. They let me stay for 2 weeks. I got a dishwashing job at a sketchy diner that paid under the table. Morris stayed in touch through a burner email. He said Mom cried on camera for the missing person report, then bitched about me being overly dramatic after the cops left. Dad said I'd come crawling back once I got hungry. I didn't. Not when hunger made my stomach ache. Not when I shared a shelter with people screaming in their sleep. Not even in December, when I still didn't have a real coat. 2 months in, I met Ronnie. He caught me napping in the diner's break room. Instead of firing me, he asked why. I wasn't in school. I told him the whole story over cold fries after closing. Turned out, Ronnie had his own messed up past. Different details, same pain. He gave me work on under-the-table renovation jobs. When I got my GED at 17, it turned legit. He even let me crash on his couch until I could afford the saddest studio apartment in history. The first 2 years were a blur of long shifts, ramen, and falling asleep to YouTube videos about credit scores. No time for friends, just survive. Morris went to college 3 states away. Smart move. We still emailed, just less. He had a life to live. I was building mine from scratch. Year 3, I started feeling almost normal again. Got an apartment without mold. Took online community college classes. Even tried dating. My parents finally realized I wasn't coming back. Around month 5, they filed a missing person report. It went nowhere. I was working under my real name, just invisible to them. Morris said they turned my room into a gym by my 17th birthday. Dad took my valuable baseball cards. Mom told neighbors I was at a boarding school for troubled teens. That's when I stopped just surviving. I started planning. I didn't want to escape anymore. I wanted to become someone they'd regret losing. I let go of the anger. Anger burns energy I needed to climb. I got smart. Every paycheck, every class, every new skill became a brick in the wall between me and that dinner table where they laughed at me. Now I'm 22. I have a home, a job, a found family of people who actually care. Morris is the only one who knows where I am. Well, he was, until last week. He warned me our parents are looking. Hard now? Why? Because the Bank of Karma finally came to collect. Debt and me. Turns out I became the kind of collections agent nobody expected. Emotional debt also earns daily interest, and this is the next installment. First off, what a ride. The first. Part blew up more than I imagined. My inbox exploded. Tons of comments and even some awards came in. For a second, it felt like maybe I wasn't the only one who went through something like this. A lot of people asked if it was real. Sadly, yes. A few minor details have been changed for obvious reasons, but the story is 100% mine. I honestly wish it wasn't. Let's pick up where we left off. The 2 years after getting kicked out were all about survival. Double shifts, cheap ramen, and a mattress I pulled from near a dumpster. Don't judge. I doused it in Lysol. I'd use the public library to check emails. Mostly to hear from Morris, who gave me updates on the house. My parents looked for me for about 3 weeks, meaning my mom posted some emotional throwback pics on Facebook to get sympathy likes, and my dad called maybe 2 of my old school friends. That was the extent of their search effort. By month 4, Morris sent me a screenshot. Mom had turned my old room into a luxury home gym. Fake Peloton, display-only dumbbells, the whole vibe. Caption read, "Making lemonade out of 4. Life's lemons. Blessed Dolly Fit Mom." That post got more likes than all her missing son ones combined. Make of that what you will. By year 3, I'd saved enough to start cheap community college courses online. After work, totally drained, I'd lean over a busted old laptop, on a desk, made of a door resting on milk crates. My back ached, but the pain felt worth it. I studied business and finance, not out of love, but because I'd learned money doesn't care if you've ever been loved. It's just math. And math is cold, clean, and logical. That's when I met Zoe, through an online study group. I fixed her Excel formula and she messaged me privately. It started with homework chats and turned into something more. She was sharp, worked at a law office, training to become a paralegal. We met in real life at a boring coffee shop. I was nervous, wearing my nicest shirt, which had a pasta stain I'd tried to cover with pen ink. She showed up in a messy bun and glasses, smiling like she didn't care about any of that. We talked for 3 hours. For the first time in years, I forgot I was someone's mistake. That same night, I told her everything. I figured she'd run, but she didn't. Her reaction wasn't pity, just calm understanding. She shared her own past, a toxic mom who used her as an emotional punching bag. We were both broken in different ways, but in the same category. Zoe changed how I saw things. Where I saw pain, she spotted potential. While we ate takeout, she'd scroll through real estate listings and say, "This building's value doesn't match the area's growth curve." Meanwhile, Morris kept sending updates. Dad's drinking got worse after he lost his job, and Mom's social circle shrunk when they realized she couldn't manage money. They'd refinanced the house twice. They were drowning in debt. After graduation, Morris moved to a different city for work. He was the only one who knew which city I was in. Not my address, though. We had a code. If he ever texted Blue Waffle, that meant our parents had found me. By year 4, things started to really shift. I got promoted twice, moved into an apartment where no one screamed at night, got a secured credit card, started building a score. Every dollar I saved was another brick in a wall between me and ever, needing my parents again. I got addicted to personal finance subreddits and YouTube channels. I wasn't rich, but I was free. Zoe moved in during year 5. Just a tiny 1-bedroom, but it had everything. We'd sit on our secondhand couch and build budgets like most couples plan weddings. Then Morris dropped the bomb. He called, didn't text, which meant trouble. My dad lost the house. It started with a pre-foreclosure notice, then the bank sent a final warning. Years of bad decisions and refinancing caught up. They had 90 days before eviction. That's when they remembered they had another son. My mom went back to posting baby pictures of me on Facebook with captions like, "Missing my baby boy every day, please share. Try come home." Same pictures she didn't post when I was actually missing. The comments were wild. Didn't he go to boarding school? I thought he joined the army. And my personal favorite, isn't that the gym you posted about? My dad joined Facebook, started lurking in parent support groups, playing the broken father angle. Morris said he even got sober, for about 3 weeks. Then he slipped again. I watched all this from a distance, through Morris's texts and their social posts. Something inside me started turning cold. Not angry, just analytical. Zoe. Noticed I was zoning out at dinner, crunching numbers in my head. She didn't stop me, she sharpened the plan. I started saving aggressively, investing smart. It wasn't a massive portfolio, but it was solid. With Zoe's legal background, we crafted a plan. I contacted the bank that held my parents' mortgage, set up a fake LLC, told them I buy distressed properties. The bank didn't care who paid, they just wanted their money. 3 weeks and a mountain of paperwork later, I owned the mortgage to their house. They had no idea, but they were now paying me rent through the bank. I didn't foreclose, not yet. I waited. I wanted them to come find me, to beg. Zoe called it poetic justice. I called it balancing the books. They needed cash. They needed their mistake to save them. I spent the next 2 days getting ready with Zoe, gathering documents, rehearsing what I'd say, practicing how I'd stay calm, how I'd keep them from seeing the hurt kid they'd once abandoned. Yesterday morning, the buzzer rang again. Same desperate faces on the screen. But this time I buzzed them in. 6 years of silence was about to end, and they had no idea what was waiting behind that door. The mistake they laughed off now owned their house, and memories aren't the only thing that collects interest. Final update. My hands were shaking as I let them up, not out of fear, more like that jittery rush you get after slamming. 3 energy drinks on an empty stomach. It was that electric chaos where you're not sure if you're hyped or about to have a breakdown. I had planned this moment for years, rehearsed every word, practiced expressions in the mirror like some obsessed actor. But when the knock came, all of that disappeared. Zoe gave my hand a squeeze and slipped into our bedroom. We'd agreed. First round was just me and them. Opening the door felt unreal, like one of those weird dreams where you're back in school, in just your underwear. Except I was fully dressed, and they were the ones exposed. Mom looked smaller, her salon-perfect hair now a bad box dye job. No designer purse, just a cheap one from a discount store. Dad had aged badly. The alcohol. Bloat was gone, but so was everything else. His face was hollowed out, like something had caved in. 10 seconds of silence. Then Mom made a strange, choking sound and lunged for a hug. I stepped back. She looked like I'd slapped her. Dad just stared around the apartment, taking in the decent furniture, smart TV, the proof that their discarded son wasn't living in some dump. Mom started crying instantly. That was her move. Tears first, always. Dad tried to keep a straight face and asked if they could come in to talk. I let them in but didn't offer seats or drinks. Let them stand there like door-to-door salespeople no one invited. Mom rambled about how she never stopped searching, how she cried every night not knowing if I was safe. Dad nodded like one of those wobbly dashboard toys. Neither mentioned the home gym they installed in what used to be my bedroom. Easy to forget that part when you're begging. I asked why they were here. Not what they wanted, why now? After 6 years. The act cracked. Mom's fake sobbing stopped mid-gasp. Dad deflated. They gave each other a look I hadn't seen since I was a kid, same one they had when the card declined at the store. That's when it all spilled out. The bank was foreclosing on the house. They'd tried everything: modifications, refinancing, even a GoFundMe that barely raised $87 from tired relatives. They needed a place to stay. They needed money. They needed their mistake. I asked if they'd tried Morris. Awkward shifting. They had. He gave them $3,000 months ago, money he couldn't afford. They blew it, asked for more, and Morris finally drew a line. So they found their backup plan. Me. The strangest part was watching them shift from desperate to strategic in real time. Mom's eyes darted around, pricing my furniture. Dad asked casual questions about my job. They were doing the math, seeing what they could milk from me. I told them I needed time to think. Mom immediately pushed. We only have 2 weeks. Dad dropped the number. At least $10,000 to secure a new place. It kept climbing as they talked. I walked them out after 20 minutes. Promised I'd call. Mom tried to guilt me for not hugging her. Dad acted like this was a normal visit, not like they'd thrown out a 16-year-old and ghosted him for years. The second they left, I had a breakdown in the kitchen. Zoe found me on the floor, half laughing, half crying. She didn't try to fix it, just sat with me. That night, we finalized the plan. Next day, I invited them to dinner, not at home, but at a mid-range restaurant with a private room. They said yes a little too fast. When they arrived, it wasn't just me. It was Zoe, Morris, who flew in that morning, and Ronnie, my real family, the ones who showed up when it mattered. The look on Mom's face when she realized this wasn't a private handout was gold. Dad looked like he needed a double whiskey, but wasn't sure I'd pay. Everyone got seated. I ordered drinks. Then I laid it out. Told them I knew about the foreclosure. Their faces shifted from confused to hopeful. They thought I was offering help. Instead, I pulled out a folder. Inside, mortgage documents. My LLC owned their debt. Their home was mine now. Mom went pale. Dad went red. Morris stared into his water, hiding a smile. Zoe watched them like they were under a microscope. I explained their options: foreclosure, an impossible payment plan, or renting under my terms. Or, and here was the buy, real offer. I could give them the house back free and clear, but only if they did 3 things. First, they had to publicly admit how they treated me. To friends, neighbors, everyone. The same crowd that once joked about the 1% mistake needed the full story. Second, family counseling, with me and Morris. Not to heal, just so they could hear the damage from someone who wouldn't let them squirm out. Third, they sign a legal agreement never to ask me for money again. Mom started sobbing, for real this time. No audience, just shock. Dad stared like the papers were in a foreign language. Morris stepped in and told them they should be grateful. Said he'd watched me build from nothing while they replaced me with a treadmill. Dinner was awkward as hell. Mom flipped between anger and guilt trips. Dad mostly stayed quiet, except for one moment. He asked if I did this just to hurt them. I said no. I did it to settle the debt. They threw me out when I had no value. Now they wanted to cash in. That's not family. That's not how life works. They left without agreeing. I gave them 48 hours. Those 2 days were strange. I felt powerful and empty at the same time. Zoe kept checking in, bringing tea I didn't touch. Morris camped on our couch, just in case. On the deadline morning, they showed up, tired, defeated. They agreed. Not because they got it, but because they had no other option. Paperwork was signed. Zoe's co-worker, a notary, handled it all. Since then, it's been complicated. They've stuck to the deal, probably because they know I can still crush them with the evidence. Mom posted a long, self-pitying apology on Facebook, somehow still made herself the victim. Dad's called twice, weird, stiff calls trying to read my mood. Morris went home yesterday, gave me a long hug and said he was proud, that I did what he never could, hold them accountable. Is this revenge? Maybe. But it feels more like making things right. Fixing the imbalance after 22 years. Am I happy? Not quite. But I'm satisfied. The anger is still there, but it's changed. Less like fire, more like a scar that finally healed. Last night, Zoe and I talked in bed about getting a dog, maybe saving for our own place. Just normal stuff. She asked if I had any regrets. I thought about that kid with a backpack and $40, about the hunger, the jobs, the years with no safety net. Then I thought about who I became, what I built, who I found, and I told her, no regrets, not even the revenge. Some mistakes end up being the best choices you ever make. Tools,